Welcome to Mind the Chatter, a podcast where we're breaking down mental health one conversation at a time. I'm your host Lilian and my co-host Peter.
Hi.
Today we'll be tackling a big question. When do you know you need help?
Yeah, because mental health struggles don't just happen in a vacuum. They build up either because you're not getting enough support or because you're not choosing the support that's available to you.
The image that came to me was someone shaking up a soda bottle and then giving it to you.
So how would that translate to needing help?
It starts slow.
I actually get what you mean. So it's more of started slowly and then you did nothing about it. And then eventually, it actually erupts. And you can think of the eruption as the now mental health issue that
Comes up.
you're unable to tackle on your own.
Yep. So, asking for help is not fun. It's such an uncomfortable feeling. And it's uncomfortable. Let's say for me, it's uncomfortable because there's this connotation of weakness or I'm feeling all vulnerable. What if I tell someone and then they react in a weird way?
Yeah, and you're saying that, and I'm gonna bring up the whole gender thing. You're a woman, and I'm thinking it's even so much harder for a guy because for most guys, you're not supposed to be seen as weak. And most times, especially when it comes to mental health issues, when you have to talk about it, it's because you can't handle it as a man. And, that kind of comes with all this connotation of you're failing.
I've actually seen that reaction. When you're in spaces and then you mention, oh, by the way, I'm a therapist, you'll notice someone immediately almost kind of put up a wall. And most times I get a question, so you can read my mind? And it's never an exciting
and I
question.
guess the connotation over there is I don't want you to read my mind. I don't want you to know what kind of struggles or what kind of issues I'm having because, I want to present this image of I'm capable. And that's a function of us guys living in a culture that glorifies being self-sufficient.
Yeah, you always hear, she's so strong, she's going through all that, and she's not broken down or anything. There's that idea that being strong is being able to deal with everything on your own.
Yeah, and as you said, so that's the standard, that's the good thing. And it's never said, but being needing other people comes across as that's a weakness. Because if I'm saying, oh, you're strong, you're doing it all on your own, the unsaid message over there is if you need other people, if you're leaning on other people, then maybe you're not as, you're a weak person.
Yeah. Anyway, so I wonder what help looks like. What do you think help is?
Help might mean talking to a friend. And I guess that's where the whole concept of talking cure, whereby you'll just go meet up with somebody over coffee or whatever, and then you guys will talk about what's bothering you, and you'll end up feeling a little bit better about it.
A little lighter. I get that feeling. And sometimes they're not even giving you practical things to do. Yeah. It's just the aspect of listening to what is going on for you. Sometimes you even say something and you think, oh, okay, what I need to deal with that. So
yeah. And I'd assume that part of the reason why talking helps is getting the whole idea of empathy. Somebody understands where you are, what you're going through.
Yeah. Another form of help could be asking for practical support.
And this is literally asking for things from people. So in a very practical kind of a way.
Yeah, like delegating. I have all these things I need to do. I can't do them all on my own. So call someone, or if you have a colleague, get them to do some part of it. That way, it's a little easier for you.
Yeah, and again, this might sound very basic to most of you, but there are people who find it very hard to delegate or ask somebody else to do something. And maybe we'll talk about that at some other point in the podcast today, why it would be difficult for you specifically to ask. Something else would be seeking professional help, and that's where you talk to probably a mental health practitioner and, and talk about what's been bothering you. And, that's also a way to seek help.
Okay. Before you can ask for support, you kind of need to realize that you are in need of support. And not to sound graphic, but if you have like a tiny paper cut, very specific, right?
Do you know, people talk about paper cuts. I've never had a paper cut. Have you ever had a paper
You
cut?
lucky duck. Yeah. It's painful.
Because it's one of those things I've always been reading about, hearing about, but it's never happened to me. So I keep wondering, paper cut, what the hell do you mean?
I think I've gotten a couple from printing papers. I don't even know what I was doing with them.
Okay. And for the record podcast listener, I read a lot. So it's not a function of, I have a very iffy relationship with
Eh,
papers.
but you do use a Kindle, so I
Yeah,
see
but
how.
historically, I've been reading papers or maybe it's because I read old books. I don't know. Could be any.
Yes,
Carry on.
old books are nice and weathered. Anyway, we were saying you need to kind of recognize that you have.
Or paper cut.
Yes, you have to see the blood and feel the pain. And I'm about to use a bad word, so I'll take a deep breath. Yeah. So, what signs do you need to look out for?
Okay, so we need to go beyond the whole I'm feeling off. I mean, that may not tell you enough. So we can start off with physical symptoms. And
And probably before we go into physical symptoms, you kind of have to eliminate all other thingies.
oh
Am I
yeah,
feeling sick? Am I just hungry? Like there are things that just put you in a different state.
true, true. So when we're talking about physical symptoms, you need to first of all discount. Okay, I don't know if discount is the right term. You need to make sure that my stomach feeling fine is not a function of I ate a bad.
Hot dog.
I don't know why you would go there, but yes, wouldn't be I ate a bad hot dog or I drank a I don't know where I'm going with this. Obviously, I'm not good with
Yeah, I'm
food.
wondering where don't you eat food?
Yeah, so you need to discount that. So this is, I'm in good health, and then suddenly I'm having these physical symptoms. So the first one would be, persistent fatigue. You wake up feeling tired, and then you're just going through the whole day and you're feeling tired and you can't explain what's tiring you out. Could be you're having a headache and you can't quite tell where this headache is coming from. You're well hydrated and it's not an eye problem. So that could also be a sign that something is wrong.
Okay. Muscle tension. There's something, I don't know. I don't know if you have a fidgety habit. Mine is usually I start counting my fingers. Whenever I'm in a tense situation, I'll start counting my fingers, and sometimes it happens. You're looking at me weird.
Yeah, I'm just thinking counting fingers. Why? Why of all the things? I mean, it's just 1 up to 10. It's not even challenging.
Hey, stop judging my fidgeting.
Okay, I apologize. I apologize. I didn't mean this to come across as judgmental. I was just wondering, 1, 2. I'm not gonna count.
Don't count. You're gonna make this worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and finally, digestive issues. You know, tension loves the stomach. Suddenly, you don't have an
It's
appetite.
interesting you should say that because when we're engaging in therapy,
Mhm.
especially if we're taking an experiential kind of a modality, we'll always ask our client, what are you feeling? And
Where are you feeling
almost,
it?
80% of the time it'll just be like something in the stomach. So yeah, tension and all those feelings do kind of end up being bottled. I guess there's a reason why they say I can, gut feeling.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I see where the phrase would come from. So yeah, and this the technical term for this is psychosomatic symptoms. Sometimes they are a little bit more intense. You could actually find that something psychological is so overwhelming, it's showing up as an illness. You're having a headache, your tummy is aching, you go to hospital and the doctors can find nothing.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say in my practice I've had, like a whole bunch of experiences whereby somebody came in and then they got out and they're like, "Oh, I'm healed physically." But I've heard from my colleagues, they'll tell you somebody came and they were experiencing this kind of tension, and by the time they were done addressing whatever they were addressing, it went. So bringing it back home, could be you are having muscle pains or headaches, and then just by virtue of you talking to a friend, you end up feeling better. That night you slept better, you woke up, and then you didn't have that fatigue. So that's what we're talking about, this whole physical manifestation. Sometimes all they need is, you getting a little support, and then, they're gone.
Yeah, and kind of getting into your feelings. Now, I've noticed, even for clients I've had, that whenever they're undergoing a stressful situation or they're going through something they don't quite understand, their thoughts tend to lean more to the negativity. Like suddenly you're criticizing yourself more, or you're looking at the world and nothing seems to be working. Someone will make a comment and your immediate thought is, they're trying to put me on the spot.
Yeah, we do have this tendency to, it's like your moods color how you see the world. So could be you're looking at the same exact thing, but based on what frame of mind you're in, things look darker. So if you find yourself, you're mostly perceiving everything going around you negatively and you're getting ticked off at things which normally wouldn't be ticking you off, then maybe that's a sign that something's going wrong somewhere.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just you're having trouble concentrating on something, or even it's gotten harder to make decisions that normally would be very easy for you. Yep. You've touched a bit on what happens with your emotions. You've touched a bit on it. Like you've talked about being moody or suddenly you're very irritable. Yeah, so with emotions, sometimes it's just mood swings or you're feeling drained. Someone is trying to engage you, but you're just feeling like the common term is they're just taking from you and there's nothing you're gaining from it. You could even find yourself feeling burnt out. You love doing some activity and then suddenly you can't muster up enough enthusiasm to even get into it. Another emotional symptom, which I find very concerning, dissociating. Like you're in a space, you're surrounded by people, but you just can't seem to connect with them.
Okay, there's also behavioral signs, and these ones could include sleep problems, and that could be you're either sleeping too much or you're having trouble sleeping.
Oh, I've had that a lot. Like when I'm stressed out, I sleep.
This is one of those things which I always find interesting. Some people do too much, some people too little. So I'm wondering what's the science behind it.
Sleep can be a good escape.
I get that, but
Yeah.
but why they what word am I looking for? I don't want to say contradiction,
Uh-huh.
but why they what word am I looking for? I don't want to say juxtaposition because that's not the word.
Mhm.
Why the contrast?
The contrast.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Why does one person sleep too much, the other one too little? I mean, and it's the same thing. Yeah. Another behavioral characteristic would be avoiding people or pulling away from relationships. And this is one of the most significant ones because you just find yourself wanting to either be by yourself or not keep in touch with people who previously you might have enjoyed their company.
I think this is the epitome of self-sufficiency. And this is how. Part of you knows if I hang out with people I normally hang out with, they'll notice there's a problem. Yeah. And I don't want to talk about what's going on for me. So instead, I'll stay away from them. And then fix me. And then once I'm fixed, I'll go back to hanging out with
Yeah,
them.
and I always find that rather curious, the fact that somebody will ghost you for a while and then when they come back, they'll be like, it's because I was going through something. And you'll ask them, oh, why did, then they wanted to come back when they were okay.
And
So
sometimes that makes me angry because I'm imagining I'm your friend.
mhm.
So if I'm your friend, then you should allow me to play that part of being a friend while you're in trouble.
Podcast listener, she's talking as a normal human being, not as a therapist. As a therapist, she wouldn't be angry.
Yes, as a therapist, we are calm and supportive. But as a friend, it makes me angry. I feel like you're robbing me of the chance to be closer to you by supporting you.
That's something that happens a lot and with a lot of people. And again, there are very good reasons why people feel they need to go away and just figure things out on their own and then come back. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
So another thing to look out for is unhealthy coping mechanisms. And this could be an increase in substance use. You used to do 2 beers and you're good. And then now you're doing 5. Ama you're being the person who's being taken care of. Then there's emotional eating. You are suddenly eating very unhealthy stuff, or you're eating a lot. You're constantly peckish. I just want to eat something. Another thing would be endlessly scrolling. And the phone has become a really good escape method. Just going on TikTok and watching videos, and then at 3 a.m., you're still on your phone and you should have slept ages ago.
And maybe we should talk a little bit about these because it actually works. These unhealthy coping mechanisms, they actually work in the short term.
Yeah, because they give you happy feels. For example, if you're eating ice cream, who can be sad while you're eating ice cream? That's just, they don't work in the same space. Or you're scrolling through TikToks and the videos are just engaging. There's a challenge, you're seeing people doing them. It's just, it hits the reward system.
Yeah. So maybe a little bit of science behind these. So psychologically, these coping mechanisms tap into your brain's reward system and particularly the dopamine pathways. When you're stressed or anxious, engaging in these behaviors will give you a high. So, it's literally like a drug. You'll get a hit and your brain will be like, I love that. And it's way better than the bad feeling I was having. And the problem with that is you'll keep repeating it over and over. And each time you do it, you kind of, put the distressing thing on the side.
Yeah, and like a muscle, the way you need to kind of train your muscles to be able to take on heavier things, or if it's your brain, if you're trying to learn chess, you have to keep practicing so that it's able to get to the moves faster. What happens with these short term distractions is you get into it and then you almost untrain yourself from dealing with the discomfort or dealing with a situation where you're being stressed. You become less equipped to deal with it.
Yeah. So the whole escape kind of becomes a habit and it's really, really hard to stop. And an even bigger problem is that your coping mechanism doesn't help you resolve any of the underlying issues. So instead, they just reduce your distress tolerance. So
Yeah, so like we said, in the short term, it works. It gives you that space to feel happy and not stressed, but it also creates this loop.
And I think the hard thing is that when you don't have your distraction or your coping mechanism, then the thing becomes even worse than it would have been had you not trained yourself that, oh, I can eat ice cream to feel better. Part of the motivation for starting this podcast was to equip you with skills and techniques which can help you to cope with some of these problems. And right now, we've been talking about how some people find it hard to ask for help. So maybe it will be a nice time to, give you some tips on how you can go about this. And the first one I would talk about is role playing. This is a technique used in therapy a lot, and it's literally what it sounds like. You just get to role play with somebody in a particular scenario.
And I think we've seen this in movies. It also ties in with something called rehearsing. You could literally stand in front of a mirror and talk to the person that you would want to ask help from and do your whole speech.
And the whole rationale is for you to see how difficult it would be and prepare. If you're the kind of person who has to say things right, you'll come up with the words. Or if you have a hard time speaking spur of the moment, you'll know exactly what to say and then what kind of thing to anticipate.
Yeah, and if you do it with someone you trust, they can even give you notes. Like, hey, when you do it like this, you look a little bit desperate, tone it down, things like that.
Yeah, so role playing, that's something you can try out either on your own in front of a mirror or even better with a friend.
Yeah. Something else is letter writing. Writing in general helps you kind of see the situation clearly and also allows you to put on emotions you wouldn't normally talk about when you're addressing the actual person.
And I think this also works in terms of just giving you the right kind of words to say. And you could even take this a step further. It could be a text. So you write down what you want to say and then you just hit send and you've asked for help.
Yeah, and then deal with the anxiety that comes right after you've sent the text.
Then maybe we should go to the third tip, which would be a technique known as flooding.
Yeah. You've seen these videos where people just throw kids inside the pool. They freak me out. But
I don't think that's flooding. Like you're taking it a little bit too literal. That's not flooding.
I am trying to paint a mental picture.
That is
So
not
flooding in this case would be just go for it. identify what person or what kind of support you need and go right at it.
And again, the rationale behind flooding is you're scared, you don't know what's going to happen. So flooding is just, immersing yourself into it. And then you don't even give yourself time to overthink what could go wrong. So,
Yeah.
say you want to ask for a huge loan from somebody and even you think it's ridiculous. Instead of prepping and whatnot, just ask and then wait. That's a very bad example. I don't think that's flooding. Example wouldn't
Yeah,
have
it's
been that bad.
exactly that.
Okay, you give an example then.
No, it's totally in the same lines. If you're thinking, like you said, with flooding, you don't give yourself the chance to overthink on how the situation is gonna be. So if you're thinking, I'm just gonna I'm gonna tell John that I lost my job and I don't have enough money to run on, then just do it. Call John, sit down with John and say what you're gonna say and deal with what happens after.
Yeah. So the whole idea is you don't give yourself time to, think about consequences of you asking for help. Because in reality, the consequences will be positive, but you don't know that you're scared. There's a reason why you're not doing it. So you just go ahead and ask and, see what happens.
Yeah, and it's rare for overthinkers to think of the positive, like, oh, he's gonna be so empathetic and he's gonna help me out and listen to me. We never go that way.
So now that you've spoken about overthinkers, maybe we should talk about
Why it's so difficult to ask for help.
why it's so difficult. Because this, even as we're talking, I appreciate that there are people who are constantly asking for help, and it even pisses you off because they're ever asking. So there are people who find it so easy, but there are people who find it so hard. And I think this is mostly addressed at people who find it hard to ask for help.
Yeah. So we learn most of our behavior or most of our perceptions on life while we are children in the environments that we grow up in. And sometimes it goes way back when you're a kiddo and you and here we are thinking about those kids who had to take on responsibility very early. In therapy, we call them parentified children. As a child, you're expected to take on this responsibility. Maybe it was even walking back from school with your younger siblings, and you're expected to know how to cross the road, how to get into the house, where to get the key that has been left sijui at some shop. That teaches you that it's on you and you have to know what to do next.
Yeah, so from a family therapy point of view, we learn that these patterns often stem from early family roles and dynamics. So just as you've said, the roles that were, given to you. So there are roles which are age appropriate, like being asked to clean up after yourself. Those are age appropriate. But if you're being asked to take care of your younger brother and then nobody's taking care of you, so you're the one who is going to be doing most of the taking care of, and you're made to know that this is your responsibility.
And actually not, there's a statement you keep getting, amefanya hivyo ukiwa hapo, like how did they do this while you were there?
Yeah. So you just learn that this is my responsibility. And there's also, we're talking about you as a child having been asked to take care of another child, but there are also instances whereby you're a child, but you're taking care of your parent emotionally. So you're the one who's supposed to, they'll come and just tell you how hard a day they've had, and it's
Yeah.
up to you to make them feel better. So you kind of learn to, your role is to take care of other people. And if this happens often enough, then you kind of come to learn that your needs always come second.
Yeah, no one is asking you how are you able to do this. It's always I'm expected to do this.
Yeah. And if that's the kind of childhood you've had, then asking for help is not second nature to you.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking in the African context, asking for help in some way was put to seem like you're airing your dirty laundry. If you go to an aunt, if you go to someone else to talk about what's going on for you or for the family, then you're betraying this system that we already have.
So you internalize that kind of an upbringing.
Yeah, and it's maintained even in adulthood. Going into therapy and saying, oh, this is going on for me feels very hard, and it feels very like you're being disloyal to what you've learned.
Yep. In therapy, we call this an invisible loyalty to your family system. And, it's really, really hard to break from that.
Yeah, so I guess what we're trying to say here is that it's a normal reaction and it comes from somewhere. It's just not I enjoy suffering on my own. It comes from somewhere and that's something you've learned. But the good thing is you can unlearn it.
Yeah, it will be difficult and it's gonna take time, but it's something that can be unlearned, and I think that's a positive way to think about it. You have this kind of perception, but it's not permanent. It's something that can be worked through, and then you can get to a point whereby you know that you deserve help and you deserve support, and it's okay to ask.
I think that's a good place to wind down to.
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Yeah. Now that we've explored the signs of mental strain, the different ways it can show up in our lives, remember that recognizing these signs is really the first step. Asking for support then becomes step two. And it doesn't mean that you're failing, it just means you're human.
And whether it's talking to a friend, taking time for yourself, or reaching out to a therapist, seeking support is self-care.
If anything in this episode resonated with you, consider it your invitation to pause, reflect, and take up the next step. And remember, you don't have to go through this alone.
Okay, so that will be it for today. We hope you've enjoyed the episode. We'll see you on the next one.